I just point to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slammy, Ego, Slammy, Ego, Slammy, Ego, Slammy, hey. Hit it up hard, hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. Amen. Slammy, Ego, Slammy, Ego, Slammy, Ego, Slammy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 310 of Talking Friars. Thank you so much for tuning in here. I am Ben Fadden. We got a fun one here as we count the days towards 2023. We're almost there. Let's count down the top 5 Padres games of 2022. Obviously, this past season was a great one. There were a lot of great Padres games. We didn't know that the Padres were going to get to the NLCS, which provided more great games for the Padres. But it was great that they did. It makes this ranking a whole lot easier because there were some great postseason games that obviously you rank up higher than, some Alfaro walk-offs or whatever that we might have put up here in the top 5 if the Padres didn't get as far as they did. But let's start here. We'll go from 5 to 1 reverse order, so we'll have some suspense. So if you want to know what number 1 is, stay tuned till the end. But we'll start at number 5. Or actually, here, we'll start with some honorable mentions first, because I think that's important. The Drury Grand Slam in his debut. It was Juan Soto's debut. It was Josh Bell's debut. That was a great game right out of the gate. Just grand slam. I think Soto walked in his first at-bat. That was a great atmosphere. That was like a playoff atmosphere. Everyone was on their feet for the Soto at-bat. Everyone was cheering, gave Soto a standing ovation when he went and was running onto the field before the game to, start stretching and stuff. Like, it was a playoff atmosphere. And so that was a great game. I think Crony homered in that game. I think Manny homered in that game. That's an honorable mention. That was a great, maybe the best regular season game of 2022. I think another honorable mention was the Jake Cronenworth walk-off game against the Dodgers. Remember, I think Clev started that game. There was definitely some ups in that game. There were some downs. He gave up the home run to Freddie Freeman. So they were down. Then they came back. I think Soto had a big hit. Manny, I think, scored on that hit, if I remember, or maybe it was the other way around. But they had some great hits there. Went to extra innings. Jake Cronenworth delivered that walk-off single. That was a cool moment. Obviously, that photo afterwards of Cronenworth about to throw his helmet, and you had Chris Taylor just standing there. That was a cool picture to have, a cool moment in that regular season. Another honorable mention was the Alfaro walk-off 3-run home run on Mother's Day. I was not in San Diego at this point. I was in New York, but I remember sitting in my dorm watching that and just slamming the table and screaming and clapping really, really loudly when that happened. Don's call, I thought, was great on TV, and I know it was against the Marlins. It wasn't against the Dodgers or anything like that, but to end it with a walk-off home run on Mother's Day, I think that was pretty dang cool. So those are some honorable mentions. Let me know in the comments on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, what other honorable mentions you'd put in there. Give me your top 5. I will obviously, here's my top 5 just in a moment. But honorable mentions, top 5, whatever you want to do, let me know in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast platforms, let me know on social media at Talking Friars, or just go to the YouTube and in the comments, let me know your list of your top 5 games of 2022. Let's get started here. Again, reverse order. So from 5 to number 1. Number 5 for me was the National League Wild Card Game 1. Padres won that one 7-1 over the Mets. What I remember was the great start that the Padres had in that game. You had the home run from Josh Bell, right? I mean, first at bat, didn't do a whole lot after coming over from the Washington Nationals in a trade, hits the home run. It's like, whoa, boom, opposite field. I think he was a lefty at that point. Opposite field, takes it to left center. All right, there's a statement. That's great. off of Scherzer. And then Trent Grisham, obviously, that was the start of Grishtober. And he was huge in that Mets wild card series, having the home run. Remember, there was fans like on social media, Trent Grisham, when the Padres were going to New York from San Diego after they ended the regular season against the Giants, I want to say, he was not on the bus because he was dealing with some personal matters. So fans, they didn't know that. We didn't know that at the time. So a lot of fans were speculating, oh, Grish isn't on the roster? Jose Azocar is going to be the center fielder? I mean, we knew Grisham had struggled a lot during the regular season, but we did not know that, oh, maybe Grish isn't going to be on the roster. We didn't think he was going to miss the roster. And so I didn't believe that, but I was like, oh, that's really weird. And then he goes from not being on the bus to joining the team later because of a personal matter and then he goes and hits home runs and is absolutely huge in that series. And that was just the first of home runs on back-to-back nights, one against Scherzer, and then he homered against DeGrom the next night. Jurickson Profar homered to right field. That was a line drive. Manny with like a piss missile. I think that's what I called it when he hit that home run. That ball was smashed. That one, a line drive to left, and that knocked Scherzer out of the game. Padres 7-1 win. Yu Darvish pitched incredible. 7 innings, 1 run. Did not walk anyone. As I said, start of Grishtober. That was a great game. The Padres knew that they were going to have a tough one in Game 2 because they were going to have to face Jacob deGrom. But sitting there, they would have rather faced Jacob deGrom in Game 2 than Game 3 because that meant that they won Game 1. Because remember, the Mets, they held Jacob deGrom back in that series. Like, they did not announce if he was going to start Game 2, or like some fans were expecting him to start Game 1, but they had Scherzer start Game 1, and then that was going to determine who was going to start Game 2 and 3. If the Mets lost Game 1, then they would have went deGrom Game 2. If they would have won Game 1, then they would have went Bassett Game 2. But they lost Game 1, so they went deGrom Game 2. Grisham still homered off him, but deGrom pitched well enough to lead the Mets to a win, series even at 1. Then they went to Game 3 where Chris Bassett pitched, and that game is later on in this list as we count down. So that was number 5 for me. The 4th best game, NLCS Game 2. Padres won this one 8-5. Remember, they were down. Was it 4-0 or 4-1? I think it was 4-0. And then they had the Brandon Drury and the Josh Bell back-to-back home runs. That put a big jolt into the crowd, or gave the crowd a lot of energy because, yeah, it was a playoff game, but there wasn't a whole lot to cheer for, right? You had the Juan Soto sunball earlier in the game. Blake Snell, he wasn't pitching terribly, but he did allow runs, and there were some blue pits. The sunball, I mean, that just sticks out to me, like I just said. Not everything was going right for the Padres there. It was like, well, that sucks. We're going to be down 2-0 in this series. I know they ended up losing anyway, but 2-0 instead of 1-1, like that's not going to be good going back to Philadelphia. But they came back. Drury, Bell with the home runs. In the 5th, Nola had the single off of his brother into right center. Soto doubled to tie it, so he made up for that sunball. I know a lot of Padres fans were pissed at Soto, like, what the heck happened there? You better make up for it. Well, he did. And about that sunball, like, where I was sitting, I didn't even see what happened because I was in, I forget what section, but I was down the first baseline, well, way down the first baseline, like in the right field corner, but on the first base side. I wasn't in the outfield, but I could not see the right field corner from my seat, so I had no idea what was happening. Then I looked on social media. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. That's unfortunate, but I didn't think that it really warranted fans to be getting pissed off at Soto. What could he have done there, right? He lost in the sun, but he did make up for it anyway, so all things were good there. After the Soto double tied it, Drury had a 2 RBI single to center, which made it 6-4. Padres loved having those comebacks in the postseason at Petco Park. Obviously, the Crony game, which we'll get to, that's going to be near the top probably. So there was that game, and then this game, something about the comebacks and those single to center to give the Padres the lead in the postseason at Petco. that was magical. And then the bullpen obviously was great. Manny homered to make it 8-4 in the eighth. That was some insurance. Bell also had another single. I think that was down the right field line. Both the home run that he hit was smashed to right, towering home run, and then the ball he hit down the line, that ball was smashed as well. So that was a good game from Bell, good game from Drury. Manny having the insurance there, and then the bullpen obviously locking it down. I think they gave up, 1 run after Snell gave up, I think, 4. So that was a great game. If you saw after the game and the scenes, and the gas lamp and all that, people were like partying like we won the NLCS and we were going to the World Series. We won the pennant. But that's just how excited this fan base was to come back. And I want to say that was a weekend. So it's not like, people were at work or anything like that. Or that might have been a Wednesday now that I think about it, because the Dodger series was a weekend, I think. That ended on the weekend. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is the environment in the gas lamp outside Petco Park. It was absolutely tremendous. I know they ended up losing the series, but that was a great game from 2022. So that's number 4 on my list. How about number 3? Number 3, NLDS Game 2. Padres won this one 5-3 over the Dodgers. What we remember from this game, obviously, Robert Suarez getting out of those jams. I'm going to remember the Jake Cronenworth just massive insurance home run there in the 8th to give the Padres some insurance because they kind of needed it, because Freddie Freeman almost hit a home run in the 9th off Hader, went off the wall. That would have made it a 1-run game. It's always nice to have insurance, but Robert Suarez was huge. Got out of 2 jams, bottom 6, first and third, no outs, right? He strikes out Justin Turner, and then he gets the 4-6-3 double play. Will was at first. I put that in the Will Myers tribute video that's up here on the YouTube channel. From Crony to Kim to Myers, getting out of that jam was absolutely huge. Biggest play of the series, definitely up to that point. I know it was only game 2, but it was a huge double play. And then, let's make things better. Robert Suarez was like, no, I'm not just going to get into 1 jam and then get out of it. I'm going to get into 2 jams and then get out of it. Bottom 7, second and third, 1 out. Robert Suarez gets the ground out to third. A great play here. I know it's just a ground out, but it was a great play. Manny Machado fields the grounder, make sure that the runner, I think it was Bellinger, make sure that runner stays at third base, and then gets it over to Myers. And Myers, he's there. It was kind of a bad throw, but Myers is there. He is probably going to go tag first base at first, but the runner decides to not just keep running because he wanted to see if Myers would go tag first. Maybe they could score a run. Myers doesn't fall for it. He goes, and instead of tagging the runner and trying to chase him, he goes and tags first base to stop the guy on third from even thinking about scoring. So go watch the video again. It's probably a better explanation or rundown of that play. But people don't talk about that play enough. Like, so many things could have gone wrong in that situation. Like, maybe Manny doesn't look at the runner at third and he ends up scoring, or Manny makes the throw over to first. Myers tries to go chase down the runner, and that guy scores because he's so focused on getting the runner, tagging the runner coming to first. But no, they execute the play perfectly. That's the first out of the inning, the second out, because there was 1 out in that 7th inning. And then Suarez gets the line out from Will Smith to end that inning. Huge, huge job out of Robert Suarez getting out of those jams there. And then, did Hader come in for 2 innings? He might have came in for 2. I want to say he came in for 2 innings in that game. Or maybe someone pitched the 8th, but the 6th and the 7th were the jams that Suarez got out of. So huge job out of him there. I'm just kind of doing this from memory for the most part. I have a couple notes here, but it's not like I have the box scores and everything up because I just think it's better from a fan perspective to just talk about feelings that I remember from that game instead of just saying, oh, here's what happened, here's what happened, here's what happened. No, I mean, I think my mom sitting there, we were sitting on the couch, obviously watching the game, and he's like, she was like, he's going to get a double play here. And this is talking about the 6th inning jam. Um, and like 3 seconds later, a double play happens. I'm like, well, you were right about that one, Mom. Not the first time I've had to say that. And then Crony obviously comes up with the go-ahead home run to make it 5-3. That ball was pissed on. Holy cow. Crony, he's not known for, having a ton of power, but that ball was crapped on, smashed. I forget, was it Trinan pitching? I think it was Trinan. But that was huge. Crony was pumped up. I mean, you don't see a ton of emotion out of him. He didn't have more emotion than the Game 4 hit, but that was a huge insurance home run. And I remember going into that Dodgers series, people did not want Jake Cronenworth starting. Some people didn't. I'm not saying every Padres fan, but I thought it was wild that some people were like, oh, he had a bad wild card series, so maybe we should put Brandon Drury at second base and don't start Jake Cronenworth. I'm like, are you insane? Bob Melvin has trust in his players. Like, if there's one manager that's not going to change the lineup after one series, it's Bob Melvin. And Jake Cronenworth, he's hit in the middle of the lineup the whole year. Like, believe in this guy. He's not going to suck the whole postseason. And boy, he did not suck in the NLDS. And in this game, it wasn't just the insurance home run. He drove in the go-ahead run, right? I think it was the ground ball to first, made it 3-2 earlier in the game. Then he scored on Profar's go-ahead single to make it 4-3 Padres, and then had the insurance home run to make it 5-3. So, it wasn't just the home run. He was huge. And then obviously the double play earlier, with the Robert Suarez getting out of that jam. He was huge in that game too. He's my favorite player, so that was a great game. That's a game that I'll remember for a very long time. So that is number 3. So far we got number 5, the NL wildcard game, Game 1. Padres won that one 7-1 over the Mets. NLCS Game 2. Phillies lost 8-5 to our Padres. Great comeback there, Drury and Bell. And then Game 3, NLDS Game 2, Padres won 5-3. Suarez gets out of those jams. Crony has a big game. I think, did Myers go deep in it? Or maybe that was Game 1. But those are 3 through 5 so far. We will get to number 1 and number 2 in reverse order. So number 2 and then number 1 after this message here about Gaglione Bros. This episode is sponsored by Gaglione Bros famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Their main location is on Friars Road, and you can visit gaglionebros.com for their menu and contact information. You can also enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and inside Snapdragon Stadium. All right, so game number 2, top 5 games of 2022. I've got the NL wildcard Game 3. Yes, that was the Joe Musgrove ear game. Buck Showalter, all that crap. Padres won 6-0. I mean, you talk about a great performance from pretty much everyone. Going into Game 3, obviously, series tied 1-1. I know I was confident that the Padres could win that game because they had the better starter, in my opinion. Bassett's good, but Joe Musgrove, there's no one else I would have rather had on the mound in that situation than Joe Musgrove, and he delivered. But going in, obviously, as a fan, you're worried. You're kind of pacing around, or just even if you're not pacing around in your mind, it's like, oh no, what's going to happen here? Can we just get to game time so we can get this out of the way? But Joe shoved. Absolute credit to Joe. 7 innings, no runs, 1 hit, and survived Buck's, obviously, ear check. Was it the 7th inning? Something around there. The Padres already had a big lead. And Buck Showalter goes out there. I guess it was circulating on social media that Joe Musgrove's ear was shiny. Buck goes out. Umpires go out. Buck asks them to check on him. They check. Manny's over there smiling the whole time because he knows Joe isn't cheating. If there's one person in the whole world that's not going to be cheating in a playoff game, it's probably Joe Musgrove. He had the quotes, I think, earlier in the week, or maybe it was a couple weeks before that, about how he didn't feel so great about the 2017 ring that he won with the Astros because of the cheating and all that. Like he wanted to, feel better about a ring. So he's not going to go, cheating in the postseason. Like that's not the guy to do that. But Buck makes a fool out of himself, goes out there, tries to discredit Joe Musgrove's great performance by accusing him of cheating, and the umpires check. Nothing happens. Joe wasn't cheating, as we all knew he wasn't cheating. If you go look at previous starts, like that's just, he lathers up a sweat. Some guys sweat easier than others. And Brian Kenny then makes a fool out of himself the next day on MLB Network, saying that Joe Musgrove did cheat, and pulls up the numbers of the spin rate. Like he had no proof except just like the spin rate. Like the umpires checked, they said he didn't cheat, but then he still goes and said, yeah, no, he cheated. So yeah, I picked apart his argument. That's on YouTube as well if you want to go search that back up on my channel. But yeah, just a situation that didn't need to happen in that game. Just give credit to Joe Musgrove. He dominated you. And I'm speaking to Buck Showalter here. Don't try to discredit him and say, no, this guy's cheating, that's why he's beating us. No. Joe Musgrove pitched his ass off. That's why he beat you guys. Because he had all of his pitches working. He gave up one hit. He had some great defensive plays. One was from Trent Grisham on the ball hitting the gap. That was a solid hit ball. But he had some good defense behind him as well. Great play out the wall by Grish. How about just give the guy credit instead of saying, go check him. Go check him. First inning, he was checking Joe Musgrove's balls. Not his literal balls, but he was checking the balls that Joe threw. And it's like, okay, if you're checking them then, go tell the umpires to check in the first or the second inning or the third inning. Don't wait till the sixth or the seventh, whenever it was, to have the umpires go check. It's too late. Padres have a lead. What's that going to do? Okay, Joe Musgrove's out of the game in the seventh inning. Even if let's say he had something on him. Okay, you're still going to lose that game because you still have Robert Suarez and Josh Hader there in the bullpen. It's too late. So he made a fool out of himself. Tried to discredit Joe. That's obviously what everyone's going to remember from that game. But I think what we should also remember was Grisham going 2 for 2. He had the single up the middle, Nola having the RBI single to get things started in that game, and the great catch, obviously, in the right center field gap, where he caught it, and then he was kind of spinning up against the wall. That was great. That was part of the Grishtober. I know Mr. October and all that, remember that from the home runs Reggie Jackson hit. And Grish hit home runs as well. He hit 3, I believe. 2 in the wild card series. Scherzer DeGrom, that's a pretty good 2 to hit off. And then game 3 back at Petco Park of the division series, and he went yard. That was the go-ahead home run, and that was huge. It was also huge. Crony had the single in game 3 as well. And I think the Padres won, was it 1 run? I think they won by 1 run that game. So great performances all around. But yeah, what I think Padres fans should remember from that game was Buck obviously embarrassing himself, Joe dominating the Mets, and the Mets chanting cheater at Joe when there was no evidence of him doing that. It was just adrenaline. Like, it's a postseason game. These guys are human. That's why the spin rate is up. He always sweats. But yeah, remember the fans chanting cheater and Buck making a fool of himself. And the Grisham with the catch and the single. Juan Soto coming through. Finally, that's what it felt like with the hit down the left field line. Who else came through in this game? Pretty much I think Manny had an RBI in this game, I want to say. Yeah, Manny had an RBI. Nola, Grish, Manny, Soto, those were the RBIs in this game. 6-0. It was as smooth as you could make it. Now, we were all still, worried, and we were all leaning. If you're watching on the couch, you were all, you were focused. You were leaning probably on your knees, focused watching this game. Because it's never over in baseball till it's over. It's not like other sports where in football you can run out the clock, soccer you can run out the clock, play keep away, hockey you can play keep away a little bit, basketball if you have a 30-point lead, I mean, it's a timed game. There's a clock, right? You can go on a run, but you're still down 15, right? And there's 3 minutes left. Like, the game's over. Or you're just fouling for an hour, right, at the end, and you're still not going to come back. But that's what you're trying to do, is come back and have like a 1% chance of coming back, and that's the way of doing so. That's not how it is in baseball. You got to get every out. It's not a timed game. That's what I love about it. But that also is what makes fans like us worried, whatever the score is. Like, we got this in the bag. No, not till it's over. I'm still going to be sitting there like, okay, this is what managers do too. Like, when are we going to pull this guy? Sometimes managers, they give up, or pitchers, they give up 1 or 2 hits, and the manager's like, all right, you're done, because we cannot let this snowball. And then they go bring in a reliever. I know I kind of just went off on a different tangent or went a different route there. But the point is, obviously, a great game there, 6-0, pretty much as great as you could have imagined it going into that game 3. And that leads me to the best game of the 2022 season for the San Diego Padres. I think we all know what it is. Drum roll, please. It was NLDS Game 4, Padres and the Dodgers. The night Petco Park was the most alive probably ever. The night the Padres slayed the dragon. Jake Cronenworth, the hero. But let's start off first with Joe Musgrove. 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. So he pitches game 3 against the Mets, winner-take-all game. No one else I'd rather have on the mound. Then he's facing the Dodgers game 4. No one else I'd rather have on the mound. And he has a solid start. And then the bullpen, after Steven Wilson gave up a run, so the Padres have allowed 3 runs, and they were chasing, obviously, 3-0. Tim Hill, Robert Suarez, Josh Hader, they didn't allow any runs. That was obviously huge. Padres won by 2. Bottom 7, down 3-0. It was, there wasn't a whole lot of energy in the ballpark at that time, but it was kind of like NLCS game 2. Like, why would there be a ton of energy, right? Because it looked like it was going to a game 5. I remember the San Diego Wave had a playoff game that I was going to the next day, and I'm like, okay, can we please end this here? Because I don't want to have to be simultaneously paying attention to 2 San Diego playoff games at the same time. I don't want to go back to Dodger Stadium. Let's end it right here. Let's make this like the best night ever. And that's exactly what happened. It didn't look like it was going to happen, down 3-0. But 7th inning, Nola has the bouncer that wasn't fielded cleanly by Freeman. That scores a run. Kim obviously has the double down the left field line. I think it was Justin Turner. He was playing back and a little off the bag. Ended up helping the Padres, a bouncer down the left field line. Soto has the game-tying single to right. Comes up clutch. He came up clutch a couple times in the NLCS as well. That was huge. And obviously, he was big in the Wild Card Series Game 3, having a hit there, driving in a run down the left field line. I know that wasn't hit great, but this one was squared up. Single to right, ties the game. He's as pumped up as we've seen him in a Padres uniform. And then my man, Jake Cronenworth, steps up to the plate. And it's a moment that Padres fans should never forget. Single to center field. Jake rounds, goes to second base, and at the same time that he did it, it was like I knew what he was going to do. I gave a big fist pump, fist punch, air, punch in the air, whatever you want to call it. And he was doing that towards the dugout, and Petco Park was going insane. 5-3 lead. Dave Roberts didn't know what to do with himself, and the Dodgers were like, stunned pretty much probably because they had a 3-0 lead going into the inning, right? And Profar is going nuts. All of Petco Park is going nuts. And obviously, as I mentioned, Hill and Suarez and Hader not allowing any runs after 3 runs were allowed by Musgrove and Wilson combined. And it wasn't bad by Musgrove. Like 2 runs, you'll take that against the Dodgers. That was huge. But what obviously, if you were there at Petco Park, and everyone listening or watching this probably wasn't all there, some of you were, like I was, and I was blessed to be there. Very grateful the situation that I am in, and I hope that everyone that was there was grateful that they got to be there as well. What we're going to remember is that eighth inning, I think, when it started pouring. No one left their seat. Well, they left the seat, but they were just standing at their seat. Everyone was standing in between innings. They were playing Blink 182, all the small things, and the whole stadium singing it. And that kind of became the song of the Padres, the rest of the postseason. I think they played it during the NLCS as well when the Padres made that comeback in Game 2. But that moment right there, it's like, man, that is what sports is all about. Like bringing joy to 40,000 people that are there together. Everyone's united. Obviously, this Padres organization's been through a lot of ups and downs, but to finally get that moment, and it was against the Dodgers. It wasn't in 2020 when there were no fans there. It was just, the players' families and all that. That would have been great too. But this was, probably more fulfilling, At home, you had Joe Musgrove on the team, right? The San Diego guy. And, the players' emotions after the game. And you don't see Jake Cronenworth show a lot of emotion, but he was pumped up. A lot of let's effing go. And Will, obviously, after the game, going into the bars and buying beers for everyone, taking a lot of pictures in there with the fans and really embracing the fans and the players. I wasn't there for this part, but I guess the players, they went around the field high-fiving the fans. It's a moment that San Diego's not going to forget, right? That has to be the number one game of 2022. How can it not be? What other game was better than NLDS Game 4? Sure, was the wild card game, Game 3, when the Padres won 6-0, was that cleaner, crisper? Sure. But to come back against the Dodgers down 3-0, score 5 runs in an inning, and that was like the knockout blow right there. And then Josh Hader in the 9th inning, I don't want to forget this, striking out Betts, Turner, and Freeman, all 3 of them. Those are 3 of the best hitters in baseball. And he said, no, you're taking a seat, you're taking a seat, and you're taking a seat. I mean, what a way to end it. And then Jesse's call, man, I wish Don and Mud were on the call. You know how Mud, he was crying in 2020 when the Padres made it to the postseason? I don't even imagine what Don and Mud, how that would have sounded if they were on the call on TV when that moment happened. And that sucks that they're not on the call, but I do appreciate, I understand it too, the TV rights and all that, but I do appreciate, and I'm grateful that Jesse and Tony got to be on the call, right? And Jesse's call was tremendous. Slay the Dragon. Gonna remember that. This series is over. That was great. So I could probably remember more stuff from the night and all that. In fact, I'll say this too. Going out of Petco, outside Petco, and walking to the trolley and just high-fiving random stranger Padres fans. Like, that's what sports is about. Just joy. I don't know who you are, but I'm going to high-five you because that was the best moment of our lives probably right there. Like, our best moment in a long time. That was the best Padres moment of my life for sure. Because I was 3 the last time they actually made the postseason. And they punched their ticket to the NLCS. It's not like, or I'll say this, I don't even think fans, to be honest, I think we were so happy that we beat the Dodgers. I don't even think we were focused on, do you know what this means? We're going to the NLCS. We get to host a playoff game because it was against the Phillies. We had that advantage over them. You understand? We get home field advantage in the NLCS. Obviously, they ended up having the advantage because they had 3 home games. We had 2 because that's how long the series went. But we weren't even focused on the NLCS happening, and we were going to get to be at it the next Padres postseason game, the next two, we were focused on we just beat the freaking Dodgers. And seeing Clayton Kershaw's face after it, and Dave Roberts, hearing the story later in the offseason that he had to get out of San Diego so fast, and they went to another country because they had to get out of San Diego because Dave Roberts lives in San Diego in the offseason, and just how sad and heartbroken the Dodgers were after the game. It was tremendous. It was great. So yeah, I guess that's it. My top 5 Padres games of 2022. Number 5, NL Wild Card Game 1. Padres won 7-1 over the Mets. Number 4, the NLCS Game 2. Phillies 5, Padres 8. NLDS Game 2 is my number 3. Padres won 5-3. All the jams that Suarez got out of. Crony had a great game. Game 3, NL Wild Card. 6-0 win for the Padres, the Joe Musgrove ear game. What a great performance there. Smooth game when you look at the score. And then number 1, there was no other choice. NLDS Game 4, Padres won 5-3. The night they slayed the Dragon, series was over, as Jesse said. That was great. And then honorable mentions, obviously, the Alfaro walk-offs, the Cronenworth walk-off against the Dodgers in the regular season. Opening day, remember, Musgrove started, and I think C.J. Abrams homered. It wasn't opening day, but it was the home opener for the Padres. That was a great game. There was a game against the Rockies earlier in the season. Not the Drury game, but that with the Grand Slam. That was an honorable mention, as I said earlier. But there was also another game. I think Musgrove started. They were playing tic-tac-toe on the mound. Manny homered. I think they won that game. They scored 6 or 7 runs in that game. I know they won the game. It was like 6-1, something like that. It was a pretty smooth game. The game against the White Sox, the Saturday game, the day before they clinched a spot, that was their last win before clinching a playoff spot, where they had home run. Soto had a homer, I believe. Myers, I think, homered. Manny homered, I want to say. Big performances. Crony, I think, homered. So that's another game you probably have to mention up there. I'm probably forgetting a lot of games, but those are just some honorable mentions. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think I got the top 5 right? What would your top 5 games of 2022 be? Maybe it's the same games, but it's a different order. Let me know. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in here, episode 310 of Talking Friars. Have a good one. Enjoy these holidays, and go Padres. See ya.